What's up, everybody? Welcome into yet another edition of the Baseline Jumper podcast. My name is Jason Goldstein, and on the line with me right now is a terrible man who refused to give me a drink of water. Ben McDonald over here trying to get his partner and dear friend dehydrated. Shame on you, pal.
Yeah,
Shame on you.
I am no Bobby Boucher, Mr. Goldstein. I am a Scrooge-like water provider, and I deserve all the criticism you're throwing at me.
Well, speaking of providers, we provide basketball content usually every week, but last week we took a week off. I was traveling, was in New Orleans, and narrowly missed an opportunity to go to a Pelicans Pistons game for $3. Unfortunately, everyone I was with, not everyone wanted to go, so we went to dinner instead, but I missed a buzzer beating game winner by your boy Derrick Rose. So unfortunate, I did not get to check out the Smoothie King Center down in the Big Easy, but nonetheless, a great trip. How have you been, man? We haven't done a show in 2 weeks.
I am living the dream, my friend. Had some friends visiting. Went to New York, saw a friend there. Been lots of fun. Been watching lots of basketball. It's a good time to be alive. It's a good time to be a basketball fan, and the holidays are right around the corner. So no complaints here whatsoever, my friend.
Well, Christmas just 1 week away, so quick house cleaning before we get into the hoops. We will not have a show next week as it is Christmas Eve. We will get into our holiday wishes at the end of the show, but this will be our last show until the 30th, as both Christmas and New Year's Eve fall on Tuesday, our record night. So we'll have one show on the 30th, breaking down the Christmas games from the week before and previewing 2020 and what is going to be a wild year for the National Basketball Association. So before we get into what's been happening lately around the association, there's just one quick thing that Ben and I wanted to address. In our season preview, you went as far as to say no coaches will get fired this season. There's a lot of parity around the league, a lot of young teams. Coaches will get their shot to develop young players. Guess what? That didn't happen because everybody's favorite punching bag, the New York Knickerbockers, have parted ways with David Fizdale in almost a mandatory move after all the speculation with Perry and Mills. So, Ben, just your quick take on what happened with the Knicks there almost a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that was really, really interesting to see what the Knicks did. I thought that this was just such a terrible, embarrassing move by the Knicks. I mean, I think it's one of the most indefensible things in a long line of really indefensible things from the New York Knicks. And there was so much. I mean, I kind of would like to take a few minutes here with you to unpeel the layers of it. And I think the place to start for me is the awful lack of transparency after the move. There was nothing. So James Dolan trots out his front office after 10 games for them to do a mea culpa of how bad the season starts. Jason, where's the press conference after David Fizdale gets fired? Where's the press
Non-existent.
conference there? What is going on?
Well, it's two different entities, though, because the Knicks are just a poorly run organization. I think everyone listening to this knows that. Even if you're not the biggest basketball fan, you know that. So it's two separate entities. It's a lack of culture in that organization as a whole. And then the fact that Fizdale wasn't getting the job done. My problem with this move, it's just a quick take for me because this news is a bit outdated. But my problem is Fizdale did not get enough of a leash. They have a lot of young players, and we joke all the time about the amount of power forwards that they sign in the offseason. But to fire a coach in early December, after not even a quarter of the regular season, makes no sense to me. And now there's talk of the Knicks moving Marcus Morris and potentially listening to offers on Julius Randle. They're big money guys. The young guys aren't really developing. So now it's on Mike Miller, the interim head coach, who used to coach the Westchester Knicks of the G League. It's now on him to develop these pieces. And then they're going to throw him to the wayside for another hot name come the summer. And that's just going to push the Knicks timeline back another year. And if Knicks fans are listening to this thinking that all of this is going to lead them to getting Giannis or Kawhi Leonard in 2021 free agency, think again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, because the Knicks are a dumpster fire and a disaster. And, was Fizdale the best coach? No. But I think he got an extremely unfair shake in the situation, and now the franchise will suffer even more than they have been.
Yeah, I mean, this was so embarrassing and just so stupid by the Knicks. I mean, this was just an absolutely horrible move on so many levels. One piece that we talked about there, but another thing to me is that you have this team who's in a clear rebuild. Your your guys who are going to be future players on this team, the only guys that you're really going to be keeping around are guys like Mitchell Robinson, guys like Kevin Knox, guys like Frank Ntilikina, and of course guys like this year's number one draft pick, which is RJ Barrett. Now, RJ Barrett got some minutes, but one of the things that was very frustrating for Knicks fans, I think, the last couple years has been the seesawing minutes of some of the young players. Well, then you look and you see a front office and an ownership group that terminates the coach just after a year. I mean, ultimately, what are you expecting? If coaches know that losing will cost them their job, then why would they play any of the young guys? And this is the same thing that happened with Jeff Hornacek, and now it's happening again with Fizdale, and it's going to happen with Miller as well. Miller is now coaching for his job. If he plays his guys the wrong way, if they lose games, he doesn't get another opportunity. So all of a sudden, it turns back into a situation where whoever's running the Knicks from a coaching standpoint has to play win now with a team that has no aspirations to make the playoffs. There's no chance they're getting there. They're one of the worst teams in the league. I would say the worst team in the league. And suddenly, you're going to have this situation where guys like Marcus Morris are playing 32 minutes a game on a rebuilding team. Yes, you want to have veterans. Yes, you want to develop culture. I get it. But there's no reason for retreads like Alfred Payton, retreads like Bobby Portis, retreads like Marcus Morris to be playing over the future players of this team. I get it with Julius Randle. He's a guy who could be something. But when you play these other guys that amount of minutes, it's a terrible look for your franchise. You're not going to make the playoffs. Why are you playing veterans? And then the answer is, of course, that they're incentivizing their coaches to do that because they're saying if you don't win, we're going to kick your butts out of here, and we'll pay your salary as you go. I mean, it's just all around the level of ineptitude I thought in this move and the Knicks front office in general is staggering, Jason.
It's just another bump on the carousel of mediocrity and I can't even think of the words to describe this organization, but the dysfunction. There you go. That just surrounds the Knicks on a yearly basis. And Fizdale is just another X on the list of coaches that could not get the job done under Jim Dolan's ownership. So the
Yeah.
Knicks, despicable, although they are blowing out the Hawks right now, which doesn't say much because the Hawks are not very good this year. But
Yeah,
yeah, we
well,
just wanted to.
I mean, I was just gonna say too, Jason. I mean, you mentioned the marquee free agents. Don't think they're not paying attention to this either. To me, that's the place to end Knicks talk. Is if you think that free agents watch them fire their coach after a year, bring in guys, trade Porzingis for cents on the dollar, and then leak stories about him, and they think that those same players are gonna come sign. I mean, you better be. You better think again because it's not happening. None of these stars. Giannis is not coming to New York until James Dolan's gone.
Oh, couldn't have said it any better myself. So again, we're probably the last to react, and we were glad we did. So moving on to Luka Doncic, who is not the Iron Man that we all thought he would be. I mean, he missed some time with some injuries during his rookie season, but he has been an MVP candidate so far for the stifling hot Dallas Mavericks, who find themselves in the thick of the playoff conversation right now, top five seed in the West, mostly due to the play of Doncic, and you see Kristaps Porzingis start to come along a little bit. However, Doncic goes down with an ankle sprain, and the reports are that he could be sidelined up to 2 weeks, but he's already out of a walking boot. He's no longer using crutches. So our thoughts go out to Luka. We hope he can get back on the court soon because the Mavericks have been involved in almost all of our marquee matchups conversations since the regular season started. And we thought the Mavericks were going to, slip a little bit, but they started off playing without Luka in a big way, snapping an 18-game winning streak of the Milwaukee Bucks. And this is the first time in NBA history, Ben, that a team has snapped a winning streak of 18 or more games without their leading scorer. Again, I don't know who researches these stats, but God bless you. It was just an incredible win, start to finish, for the Mavericks. They came out to a big lead. Milwaukee came storming back, and Dallas was able to hold them off on the road. Very impressive. So, two-parter here, Ben. Your thoughts on the Doncic injury, and then the fact that the Mavericks beat the Bucks, snapping that winning streak without him.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible to see them get a win against a team that's been that good without their best player. And I mean, make no mistake, obviously Doncic is not just their best player, but one of the top players in the league. I feel like, Jason, we were ahead of this story because we talked about him as one of the best offensive players in the league just a few weeks ago. And I think that people have really started to realize how good he is and that he is as good as we were talking about a few weeks ago when we kind of discussed this team because he's a guy who's really led the team in scoring almost every game this season, but he does it in so many ways. He's so good offensively, but he does a lot of little things like rebounding the ball, the passes he makes. I mean, he can just really do it all. And in spite of the fact that he's not a great athlete, he's an okay defender just because of his size. I mean, he is essentially playing the point guard on offense, so it does make him much more impactful on that end that he's basically got the size of a small forward. So I think that that is hugely beneficial. The Mavericks played pretty well without him, but I think they are going to miss him. We'll really have to see how they do, and as you mentioned, we'll have to see if Kristaps Porzingis and some of those other guards on the team, Jalen Brunson and Seth Curry, see how they step up without Doncic in the fold.
Well, this might be a silver lining because we've been questioning Dallas's depth, I think, since the offseason when their marquee signing was Seth Curry. I mean, outside of Porzingis, who they traded for, just giving him that max deal when he went into restricted free agency. But Curry stepped up in a big way in that Milwaukee win. So if this team can kind of have that next man up mentality and get better and then have Doncic fit in seamlessly upon his return, I mean, the Mavericks can seriously be a playoff team in the West. I mean, we see Portland slipping, Spurs slipping, the Pelicans are not what I thought they would be. And the opportunity is ripe for the taking for a couple of these young teams in the West. And Dallas is at the front of the line taking full advantage with their young superstar duo that is Doncic and Porzingis.
You said it. And I think with that, another kind of interesting storyline is the turnaround of sorts, and now the I don't know what you say when something turns around and then it turns again, but the Kings have kind of been this
A carousel?
yeah, I guess the Kings have been a bit
A
of a
tilt-a-whirl?
carousel, a
A
tilt-a-whirl. I
teacup
like it.
ride?
The
Yeah.
Sacramento tilt-a-whirls. The Kings have gone sort of in all different directions. They have had these stretches where they played great basketball, then terrible basketball. The thing that's been so strange is how well they've played without De'Aaron Fox, who most of us supposed was their best player. And not to say that he isn't, but it was sort of almost alarming just how well they played in his absence, with other guys stepping up. And in spite of the fact that really the guy you would have expected to step up and Bogdan Bogdanovic really didn't play well during that stretch. And now uh, Fox is coming back. He's a guy who's gonna bring something when he does come back. I mean, what do you make of them and their recent success and kind of the mixture of things going on? And what do you think will happen once Fox does return?
Dude, I honestly don't think Fox will be the same all season. With an injury like that, it's not like rest and rehab. You'll come back at 100%. You know, he could need surgery. He probably needs an entire offseason worth of rehab just to get back, get his athleticism, get his legs underneath him. You know, it's a pretty serious injury. So for him to come back this early is pretty impressive, but I don't
Hmm.
think he's going to be himself until next season. And he had the makings of being the next Luka Doncic and really, you know, entering that upper echelon of young guards in the Western Conference. And health wise, I don't think that's happening this season. The Kings are pretty much the Buddy Hield show. You know, Bogdanovich is hit or miss, as you said. Bagley's been on the shelf. They have a lot of high price free agents, Dwayne Dedman, Corey Joseph, Trevor Ariza. That doesn't have the makings of a playoff team. So, you know, it's not like us to spend too much time talking about the Kings. I think it's just going to be another year extending that postseason drought. But I'm going to throw a quick chicken McNugget at you, Ben. They turned the ball over 29 times the other night and still beat the Warriors. And when I was looking for stuff to put in the show tonight, I just wanted to throw that in as a tidbit because 29 turnovers in a win? I mean, how?
I mean, the Golden State Warriors are a G League team with basically two All Stars and a couple veterans. I mean, they are a G League team plus D'Angelo Russell, Draymond Green, and Willie Cauley Stein at this point. The rest of the team really could just as